All right, how y'all doing today? It's your girl here. Whew. Just got in from a museum exhibit, the Dirty South exhibition over there in Houston at the Contemporary Arts Museum. It was awesome. If you get a chance to check it out, check it out. So I'm here for a recap of Women of the Movement, Season 1, Episode 5 and 6. So we are at the end. All right, so here it shows, this episode, I think was deep. I wasn't triggered necessarily. It had its moments, but it was more deep. It was a lot of symbolism, a lot of things that showed how history continues to repeat itself. It showed the woman who accused Emmett Till of whistling at her. It seemed like she felt intimidated by Mamie Till. She was trying to figure out what she was going to wear to court, and she made it seem like, oh, the women in the black women in the North, they dress differently, they speak differently, almost like she felt intimidated by her. Okay, so here we are again. We're back at the trial. The attorneys basically told Mamie, we can't call you Mrs. Till or Mrs. whatever her last name was in the movie. We had to call her by her first name. So you don't show women of color respect by calling them Ms. or Mrs. You would only address them by their first name. And then he cautioned her when she responded to him to say yes, sir, and no, sir. Okay. The attorney was trying to trip up the witnesses again. You know, now they had the field hands who actually witnessed the two guys with Emmett Till in the car and on the grounds, you know, to be able to identify him and who the guys were. They were able to identify that bald head for certain. Okay. Then they want to ask Mamie, did she have life insurance on Emmett? You know, they were trying to find everything to say like, oh, maybe you killed him, or maybe that wasn't him, or maybe you didn't see who you saw. How could you put him there? I mean, they were doing all sorts of things. They were trying to spin that so horribly. They even asked if he was in trouble in Chicago, if he ever got into any trouble. Then Mamie did a interview with one of the magazines or newspapers, basically saying how she had to tell Emmett how to act in the South. And so they were like, oh, well, you had to tell him to humble himself. And she was like, well, look, things are different from up north than they are down south. You know, so why y'all trying to make it seem like something was wrong with this boy? Like he was doing something, like he was just an innate bad person. You know, so then you get the woman who accused Emmett Till of whistling at her, and she made it seem like he tried to rape her. It wasn't that he said something inappropriate or he whistled. She made it seem like he grabbed her around the waist and did all this stuff, and he wouldn't have let her go if she wouldn't have went and got her gun. It's like lies, lies, lies on top of lies. And that made Mamie so upset to hear that, because she knew she did not raise that boy like that he would never do anything like that. So after they finished the testimony and everything that day, they showed how the KKK had a meeting, you know, and they were like, you know, these guys cannot be found guilty. They need to preserve their way of life, and that was the tone. And that kind of reminded me of Make America Great Again, right? Oh, we you know, we don't want the blacks to have all this power and integration and them thinking they can say and do whatever they want to do. We want to preserve how we do things. And so, you know, they continue with that tune. The woman lied some more about what was going on with Emmett. Now, the most interesting thing was that Emmett may have whistled, but it wasn't because he was whistling at her to be fresh or whatever. He had a speech impediment. And so his mother basically told him, if you get hung up on a word, whistle. You know, he had he stuttered or he got hung up on his word. So all this dialogue they tried to say he said, he probably couldn't even get half of that out, just, you know, because he had a speech impediment. So they showed some things of the time. They showed them with the propaganda in regards to school segregation. You know, that was something they were fighting. They showed some other things during that time. So now we're going back to court. You have the closing arguments. You had the defense just saying all sorts of stuff. And so, oh, the Lord wants y'all to find these people innocent and all kind of mess. And It was that part was sickening. How they were able to sway the jury, like if y'all don't find these people not guilty, you know, it's gonna change how things are for us, for the white folks, and all this other stuff during that time. One thing they said in their closing arguments, they was like, "How do y'all know the body was black?" Because they were trying to say that wasn't Emmett Till, was somebody else that was missing or whatnot. And they were saying, well, blacks don't grow hair on their chest. I'm like, are you kidding me? Okay, you know, that was just ridiculous. Ridiculous. So basically the verdict was to prove a point. All right. So after, of course, we know that the guys were acquitted. They were found not guilty. They wanted to try to get them on kidnapping charges because there were witnesses that basically said they saw Emmett Till with them. The uncle was able to testify that, yo, they got Emmett out of my house, you know, and so there was a lot of intimidation there as well. So Mose was like, I ain't staying here, I'm finna go up north because they probably gonna try to kill him, you know, if he were to stay there and testify in court. So during this time, popularity was there for Mamie. They wanted Mamie to tell her story. And because the woman on the witness stand lied so horribly on Emmett, she wanted people to know who Emmett was. So the NAACP was like, come on, speak, come on, and, you know, raise this money for us so we can, you know, fight these different causes and things like that. You know, and this other guy was like, how much y'all gonna pay her? What y'all gonna give her? We need to have a lawyer to have an agreement of what y'all gonna do with her. You know, and she was like, oh, I ain't worried about that. I just want to speak. You know, it gave her some power. It gave her a voice. It gave Emmett a voice. You know, so Mamie enjoyed going speak and telling her story. And it was very influential to have a woman up there, you know, saying these things. But then here comes the drama. Somebody found out that Emmett Till's father, who had died, you know, it was first indicated that he may have died in war, but then it was later indicated that he was executed in Italy for allegedly raping a white woman. So, you know, they were like, why you didn't say nothing? You should have said something. You made it seem like he was a war hero. And she was like, I didn't believe that he actually raped somebody, you know. And so here we go again. Who knows in that situation? Could be the same situation with Emmett. The dad could have said something. Maybe it was a consensual relationship. Who knows? But because he was black, this woman was white, they're in a whole nother country, they killed him. So here goes the spin doctors. Oh, Emmett's dad raped somebody, so he probably a rapist too. And she like, he ain't even know who his daddy was. He never had any dealings with his daddy to teach him anything about nothing with nothing. So, you know, they went on with that. And of course, public opinion won. Mamie stopped touring. She had a moment. She just broke down. She couldn't do nothing. And she was dealing with grief. And she indicated, now that everything stopped, you know, like reality is here. And I know the main thing that we tend to do when we're grieving, we keep busy. We keep busy. We do all sorts of things to take our minds off of it. But there's a time that we have to really stop and allow our feelings to come out. You know, to grieve in a healthy way. Grief comes in many stages, and it's important to allow ourselves to go through each of those stages. There's no expiration date on grief. You know, however much time it takes to grieve, just continue to do so. So, you know, she's grieving. Her mom comes, you know, and talk with her. Her fiance asks her to marry him again. You know, she has that support system there that basically tells her it's okay. You know, and of course the kidnapping charges, they don't even go anywhere. They drop that and keep going because of all of that drama about the dad and stuff. So made me felt like, was everything I did in vain? You know, and they kind of fast forward some where it shows that her work was not in vain. People recognized who she was. That was the kickstart of the movement. There were many, many other people who were killed in the movement, but Emmett Till's incident, his story, kind of had people to basically say, enough is enough, we are tired of this, okay? Now, there was one point where the two white men who killed Emmett were doing an interview, and they were going to tell their side of the story. And so basically it was about 4 of them and a couple black guys And I think they were hired to help them gather Emmett. They showed how they just beat him. And he was tough. He wasn't, bowing down to him, but he wasn't bucking up to him either. They wanted to break him down, so they beat him. Then they drove him somewhere else, and then they shot him. And then they tied that cotton gin fan thing around his neck and threw him in the water. And they tried to lie and say, oh, he fought and he said this and that. That boy ain't said nothing. So let's just tell you, a lie is a lie is a lie. And I think they ended up moving from that area because there was just so much that had gone on. So as the movie concludes, it showed Mamie going to school, and the school was integrated. It showed people basically telling her, like, hey, we think you're great. You did a great job. You're very helpful. We appreciate you. It showed, I can't remember what year it was, but there was a memorial for the civil rights movement for those who were lost in the fight. And Emmett's name was up there, and Medgar Evers and a bunch of other people's names were there. As they contributed, they fought, they gave their lives so we could have freedom, so we could have equality. So overall, this was an awesome series. I'm glad I watched it. I encourage all of you, if you have not seen it, watch it. Yes, it triggers some things. It's very emotional, but it shows us how history truly can repeat itself. In this day and age, we do have lynchings. We do have people who are being killed. We do have people being acquitted when all the evidence is there that shows they were guilty, they were there, they did something. But if we don't know our history, we are destined to repeat it. All right, so this is your girl, Arnika Lavalas, a.k.a. Linky Love. Y'all have a good one.